So this is a video about the TI-83, well, 84 plus software. I've had a lot of people ask me about it. The actual calculator looks like what's on the right here with the screen in the center. It's a pretty handy tool. Highly recommend all the students getting good at it. I've had teachers in the past who I fought with who told me, "Oh, you're just teaching them to use technology to solve problems." And I said, "That is exactly what I'm doing, and thank you for the compliment." So regardless, um, you got your numbers down here, your divided operators over here. One of the common mistakes on a calculator is not realizing that's -2 and this is -2. Let's clear this out, see what's going on. Minus, yes, he won't even let me hit -2. It's taking the answer. Things like that. I highly recommend playing with it and then going on YouTube and looking up videos, but I will show a couple things here that are very common. The number one is the graphing function up here where it says y equals. I have a big goofy thing here. You've got colors and you can put all sorts of different graphs in. I always use X right here up where it says X, T, theta, N. And I just square it to show you what a graph looks like. I almost always hit zoom 6 because that recenters the graph. There's so very many things you can do here. Let's say I changed my mind. I wanted a different type of line. I go over and I hit enter above that, and I can change the color, dark gray, whatever. I do like blue though. I can change the type of line. That's shading. This is just dotted line, lightly dotted line, big thick line. Actually, I don't know why I have a big thick line. It should be thinner. Well, I'm going to shade. So this will shade above the graph, and you'll see what that looks like. So there's shading above the graph. If I changed it to shading below the graph, you'll see what that looks like. And notice if you haven't been paying attention, y equals where I write it in, graph is where I did the work. So over here, I will reset this. Again, I usually go with the thinner line and okay. And let's graph a couple things so you can see how you get more than one graph here. So this is a good time to show something I find to be the most useful, most important piece of equipment on the calculator. I will use it every time, and I cannot get students to use it. They just, "Oh, I'm smarter than you." Okay, I'm glad you're smarter than me. I'm going to use the alpha. This is the green button here, y equals. It does not show anywhere here. This is a nice little feature, alpha y equals, and it goes right across. I'm going left and right with all sorts of interesting things, but we'll come back to that. The reason I use this one is it gives me a fraction bar. So if I want to put in a fraction, I don't have to worry about order for operations or parentheses. It's really quite nice. So go with -2. And we'll graph those two. All right, so it's got two graphs now. It changes to +2. By the way, I'm going very fast because this has a pause button, so you can go back and fix it anytime you want. So I put that in y equals, and now I'm going to graph it. Let's say I wanted to see what's going on there a little closer. I can zoom in with zoom 2, and then it gives me a little crosshairs, and I say I want to zoom in closer. Try to center it there, hit enter. So now it's zoomed in. And you know what? I want to find the intersection of these, where it hits here and here. So that's under the trace button where it says calc. So you're going to not hit alpha, you can hit second calc. And I want to know where they intersect, so hit 5. Now I've got to move this over. I've got to pick the curve. So it's on the blue curve. I say, yep, that's a curve. And it's on the pink curve. So, yes, that's only got 2 curves, so it's obvious. Now it says, give me a guess that's kind of close to where they intersect, because it's going to do a numerical approximation, and it's got to have a starting point. Otherwise, it'll just kind of wiggle everywhere. So there's the intersection, -1.11 and y. I can also find the other side, second calc, intersect, yes, yes, and tell it to guess all the way over here. By the way, notice I'm using the arrows to move around. It's kind of an important feature. And hit enter. And hit enter. So that one's at 1.786, 3.19, whatever. So these are some of the features you can use. I will regularly hit zoom 6. I'm going to go through here and do something fun. I don't want to delete them. I might need them later. So I'm going to hit the enter above the equals. That'll just turn them off. So if I graph it now, the blue one's gone. I'm going to turn them both off. I'm not actually going to use these for anything, but I do it in class a lot when I need that. Now I'm going to graph sine of x. And before I hit the graph button, I need to hit mode up here underneath the word quit to the right of second. And when I graph sine and cosine, I have to be in radians. And it is in radians. If I go to degrees, it'll give me a different answer. I'll show you the difference between those two in a minute. So zoom 6 to get it back. And I got a nice little sine curve going right here. Boring black color, but what are you going to do? Let me show you how degrees works. So we're going to get out of this. We hit red, it's not red, blue, second, mode, quit. Put this back here. I'm working with sine of 90 degrees, and I happen to know that's 1. So I'm going to hit mode, and I'm going to hit degree, and enter, and quit out of that. So I go with sine of 90 degrees. That's 1. Well, when you get to trigonometry, you have to go to radians. And now 90 degrees is pi over 2 in radians. So the pi button's over here above the hat. Pi divided by 2 is also 1. So you have to be cognizant. And the real problem here I see is that somebody uses a sibling use this, who's in a 9th grade physics class, and they use degrees, and then they hand it back to the sibling who forgets, and they start doing everything thinking the calculator's in radians. I actually, anytime we hit sine, I'm like, what am I supposed to do in my class? And they all have to say, yes, use radians. So other fun things in this, the math button's pretty handy. It's got a lot of stuff. You can scroll across the top, get some really crazy things going on up here. There's the fraction bar I showed you early when I hit alpha y equals. It pops up there. So you can do that. Again, if somebody gives me an order of operations problem, I immediately put the fraction in. 2 minus 3 squared over, let's go with 5 to the third. So you have to hit this caret button over here on the right. Get an automatic squared. I got an automatic negative first, but if I want to go to the third, I have to hit that. Then I got to get out of there. I can't just go again. I have to hit the side cursor. -1. And I'm making up problems. I don't know what I'm going to get here, but immediately use the fraction bar so I don't get messed up with order of operations. Boy, does that help. I can't even put into words how much that helps. What else? Oh, the math. So got all sorts of stuff in here. This turns things into fractions. So I could say, you know what? I want that answer as a fraction. I'm not sure if it'll work. Yeah, it gives it to me. So there's -7, 1/24. So I actually wouldn't use that. I'd hit the alpha y equals, and that's the bottom one. Hey, are you a fraction? Give me a decimal. Hey, you're a decimal. Give me a fraction. That's why the arrows go back and forth. So it's a decimal gives me a fraction. Math also has some roots in here, so you could have done a cube that way. You could do a cube root. So hey, what's the cube root of 27? What times itself 3 times 27? 3. I wouldn't do it that way because I know math. 27 to the 1 divided by 3. And I know I just said I'll always use a fraction bar, but there it's just a simple 1/3. And that's the same thing as the third root. Algebra, stuff like that. Sorry for being a math teacher. What else? Math. Got some heavy duty stuff down here with derivatives and integrals, but these are kind of handy functions up here. Up here, you get into absolute values. There's a lot of problems where they'll do an absolute value problem. And on the newer calculator, it actually shows like that. It used to say ABS. So that's 3 minus 5, which is -2, but absolute value means give me the positive 1, which gives me a +2. So that's under math to the right. And what are all these? I recommend playing with them. See if you can figure them out. If you don't know, look them up, Google them, see what happens. What else do I show people on the calculator? I show them how to do the fraction. I show them how to graph. We've got a pretty neat table function, but that really only applies in upper level math. So let's use X squared. And let's say you want the actual values. So you come up here and you go to second table set. You got to set the table before you use it. You say, I want to have this work automatically. I'm going to go up by ones. And I want to start at -5. Who knows what you want. Now I've set the table. It's set. It was second table. And it goes up by 1 starting at -5 and tells me what those values are. It's actually pretty handy if I'm making tables in Algebra 1 because it's pretty time consuming to keep punching in the value over and over and over on your calculator. I could also say, let me ask for it. Don't tell me. I'm going to just start wherever. This -5 now is pointless. Second table. I want to know what's going on at, my teacher makes me do -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. So it's handy. There's all sorts of cool things here. This, when you've graphed something, this second calc button I showed you, the 0 is where it hits the x-axis, the minimum, maximum. Let's just do, by the way, some people scroll down. I just hit the number, so I'm up here and I say 3. And I want to know where the minimum is. So for minimum, it says, tell me on the leftish side. And I go left, enter, and you see a little arrow says, all right, it's to the right of that left side. And it says, tell me the right side or the bound. I hit enter. All right, somewhere between these two, and give me a good guess, somewhere close. So it'll find the minimum at 0, 0. And if you're not careful, the calculator will lead you wrong. I'll show you another good example in a second that have a lot of problems with calc students. Yeah, you'll see. So that's 0, 0. 1.88 times 10 to the negative 6 is 0.0000188. That's basically 0. This one's even smaller, 0.011 times 355. So you got to be careful with the calculator. It doesn't always lead you where you want. Here's an example. Let's go up here and let's graph natural log of x. Notice I use this x because a lot of people are always hitting second or alpha. Where is it? Alpha. Alpha, and down here. Here, let me delete it. Here's the delete button. That's pretty handy. Alpha store, and that pops up an X. And that works, but I mean, it's just so much easier. This is what this button's here for. It's top center. It's important. X. So I'm going to graph natural log of X. Zoom 6. And it looks like it stops right down here, right about 0. It looks like it hits at 0, -2. Let's zoom in and see if that's accurate. Notice it's gone well down past -2. Let's zoom in again, enter. Oh, it's moving. Let's change the window. It's from, it's down about -3.7. Let's go down, leave the X. Let's say I want to go from min -10, enter, to -5. It's weird with the maxes being off like that. I did not mean to graph it. Yes, I did. And it doesn't show up. Isn't that interesting? It's probably off size. Zoom 6, just reset it. So anyway, this is a classic problem. It actually is an asymptote. It goes down forever. So there's certain things the calculator shows, certain things it doesn't. I'd be happy to show anything else if anybody lets me know what they'd like to see to be done with the calculator. Just put it in the comments and I'll make another one. There's so many things here, the modes. We're in function mode here. You can do it parametric and polar and sequential. You can tell it how you want the fractions and either improper or mixed numbers. You can tell it how to give different answers. You can move it into imaginary world here with a plus bi. You polar coordinates. You do scientific notation, English engineering notation. Change from math print to classic. Things you should play with. It's rude of me to say this, but what I like to say is when you're falling asleep in math class, all you have in front of you is a calculator because you better darn well not be on your cell phone. Play with it. Just do weird things. Here's one of my personal favorite weird things to do when I get a new calculator, see if it works. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2 divided by 8. Don't ask me how I know this. It just popped up while I was goofing off. Notice I took out the 8 and the 8 is gone. That's just me being weird. Don't mind me. Hope this was enjoyable. Happy mathing.